and welcome to Filmi Ladies India. Happy 2025. Everyone else, if you're hearing this the day it releases, goodbye to 2024. Oh boy. No matter what's coming, we're choosing to look backwards because it's safer there. And we wanted to start out 2025 by thinking about someone I think everybody loves, Juhi Chawla.
Yeah.
Um, Going into this, she's someone I like, but I couldn't really tell you why exactly. I just like her. So, in watching three and a half films and preparing for this podcast, I believe I've come up with what I think maybe is her unique selling point, at least among what
Okay.
I've seen. Again, this era is not my forte, but to me, she exudes a warmth
Yes.
that I don't think I see in other people quite as much, or at least not as consistently. And obviously, it's the types of roles and other things, but she just, because there are other people who are funny and there are other people who are charming and pretty and all those things, and other people who pair well with Shah Rukh Khan, for example.
Mhm.
But to me, there's a warmth about her. And I wonder if sometimes that reads as like girl next door-ish in a way,
Yeah.
but I want to sort of elevate that a little bit by saying it's, and I think warmth is a thing that grown people of all ages can have, and you don't need to be girlish to have it. And as I was thinking about this, it kind of came to mind because I was thinking how pleasant it was to spend time in her company, even if she wasn't the feature of the scene, let alone the movie, even if perhaps she's not very good yet, as is true in one of the
Right.
films I saw. I just find her remarkably pleasant and charming screen presence. What do you think?
I think so. I mean, when I think of the word Joie de vivre, I always think of Juhi. She's vivacious, she's happy. She comes across as genuinely warm and genuinely, well, genuine is the word I would use to describe her. It doesn't seem like she's putting on a show. Every actress has done those kind of like bubbly girl next door or like the Betty to the Archie kind of role.
Yeah.
But with her, it just seems much more natural. Like this is just who she is. She's not doing a role.
Mm,
And her smile, she is very much that person that you watch her movies and you want to be her friend,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
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 I think that's definitely her charm. And I was trying to think also of if there's anyone else who kind of exudes that. And I had to go really far back into Hindi cinema to think of Madhubala,
Yeah. I was thinking about that too,
right?
and that's also who I landed on as I went backwards, at least in terms
Yeah.
of um like you said, there are a lot of people who have done things like this, at least at times. But so I kind of paused for a moment as I was going backwards on Asha Parekh.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's who I landed on too.
Yeah, it's like directly after Madhubala, you have Juhi, and it's interesting that both those actresses were known for their comic timing.
Mm,
Doing very strong dramatic roles was not exactly Madhubala's forte either, even though Mughal Azam, funnily enough, is her biggest movie, and so is Mehel. But I think that warmth. It's very interesting because I think Juhi Chawla is a good example of what typecasting can do to an actor
oh.
where it's that warmth and the joie de vivre and the vivaciousness and the hair and the big smile, like all of that is so pretty and it's so charming. And when you look at her, you can't help but smile. It's kind of
Mm.
hard to be like dour and like watching a Juhi Chawla film, like you can't, right? um
Well, you
but at the same
can, but it
time,
takes something remarkable like Dar
right.
to get to it.
But it's also, I think, in some ways that also kind of ended up being her prison in a way.
Sure. Yeah.
That it was so hard for her to break away from that. And she took very few like little baby steps where she tried to do other things,
Mhm.
figured out that that wasn't really her forte, and like went back to doing the stuff. So she's very one note, but that one note is very likable.
I wanted to pull up I so as I've mentioned, I'm off Twitter now. I'm on Blue Sky. Please come post whatever we're calling it. Talk to me on Blue Sky, everybody, if you're interested in a new social media platform. So I did ask there what were people's favorite
Mm,
Juhi roles,
okay.
because I was expecting I was expecting a certain stripe of things and I did not get it. So can I read to you what people said?
Yeah,
Because
I'm so curious.
to my understanding, this is pretty diverse. Now, granted, there are a ton of her 90s, late 80s, 90s things I haven't seen. So some people said Glove Gang made for a very scary villain. So there's a great type. I forget if we
Yes.
talked about that in Playing Against Type, but I think that's
I
a
I know I talked about it because I watched that movie for
okay.
that episode.
And I've not seen that, but
Hmm.
I mean to. I have meant to. Some people said one person said there are too many. So we have Bol Rada Bol, Raju Bangaya Gentleman,
Mm.
Aina, Hain Rahi Pyar Ke, which I did
Mm.
watch for this, Jankar Beats. Someone, that same person also recommended the more recent film, Sharma Ji Namkeen.
Okay.
Um, let's see, what else did I get? Crazy Four, Mr. and Mrs. Kilati, and then Dar. And
Okay.
then one person said, I can't think of a single movie where I felt she feels the most essential. Almost every movie I can think of is with Shah Rukh. And yeah, anyone could have been in her place. But through all that, maybe Yes Boss and Jankar Beats a close second. So,
Okay.
you know,
That's very diverse. I'm surprised.
yeah, yeah. And I think that I would agree with the person who said almost everything I've seen her in probably could have been other people as well. But I'm certainly very happy it was her. And
Yeah.
by no means do I like begrudge her career or anything like that. Like some people I'm like, why are you famous, man? But but I do think she's a little bit different than her contemporaries,
Hmm.
even though in some ways she is not as good as they are.
Hmm.
Um, there is just something about her.
Yeah. I think it's just that likability. And I think part of the reason that she paired so incredibly well with Shah Rukh is because he is the scene stealer. You're
Mhm.
watching a Shah Rukh Khan movie for Shah Rukh. And while it is true that she may not be as essential to the film, you can't really. One of my theories is that the reason that Madhuri and Shah Rukh are not a pair that I enjoy is because both of them are scene stealers, and I
Mhm.
don't know whom to look at. Like, I can't look at both people at the same time, and they're both like, going at it.
The
So,
ingredients are not balanced, right? They're
right.
off. Yeah.
I want, if one person is going to have a really strong screen presence and they're going to say all the things and they're going to do all the things that Shah Rukh does, I want the other person to be a little bit more mellow, a little bit more
Mhm.
laid back, and a little bit
Mhm.
more reactive because he's so active. And that's
Mhm.
where Juhi shines for me. I also, one of the words I associate with her, and I by no means do I mean this as a diss, but one of the words I associate with her is naive.
Yeah.
There's such a naivete about her, there's such an innocence about her, and not like she's a dolt or she's a ditz or she's stupid. It's just kind of this like, way of looking at the world where she
Yeah.
believes the best in everyone, and that makes her perfect for roles like her role in Aina and her role in Raju Bange Gentleman. Because when
Mhm.
you have Amrita Singh playing that very, she's in both those movies, when she's playing sort of this femme fatale in Aina
Yeah.
and she's like going to grab her sister's man, and when she's playing the role in Raju Bankan Gentleman where she's going to take Raju down this like very questionable path, Juhi is kind of the voice of sanity in those movies,
Yeah.
and she's the person you're rooting for, and you feel so bad for her when she's being
Yeah.
mistreated by these people because you're like,
Yeah.
no, don't do Juhi like that. So I don't know if other people could do what she does.
Mm.
Like, Amrita Singh couldn't do what she does. Amrita Singh is too
No.
spunky,
No.
right? I don't think Madhuri could do what she does because Madhuri does not play damsels in distress.
Mm.
Um, Preeti has a little bit of that Juhi flavor.
She's the next one in that
Yeah,
line to me. Yeah.
she's the version 2.0 of
Yeah.
Juhi to some extent. But while it's true that I never look at a Juhi film and I think, oh my God, like, no one else could have done this. To some extent, it is true that that whole kind of like bright eyed and, bushy tailed person who is naive and who just wishes the best for everyone, it's very hard to find people who can portray that
Mm.
consistently as much as Juhi does.
Mm.
And you need those characters in those movies too. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Ooh,
So go ahead.
I was just gonna ask what you watched to prepare for
Mm.
this.
So there's a movie I've wanted to watch for a long time. It's been on my watch list, and I just, for some reason, never got around to it. Mostly because I thought it was going to be too depressing. But it's the movie Teen Diware. It's
Oh,
written and directed by Nagesh Kukunur, who is one of my favorite film directors. I love his movies, Hyderabad Blues. I love Door. I love Rockford. Rockford is such a good movie. And I had never seen Teen Diware because it is such a departure from the lighthearted slice of life movies that he does. Teen Diwali is literally about these three convicts, one of whom is played by Nagesh Kukunur himself, also Nasiruddin Shah, and our favorite Jackie Shroff. Um, these are three convicts that are on death row for these bad things that they've done, murder basically. And Juhi Chawla plays a documentarian who, or a documentary filmmaker who's gonna interview them. And so this is very much a departure from your classic Juhi Chawla role.
mm,
The film is very sort of black and white, literally shot in shades of like grays and blues and things like that. It's very like moody. Obviously, it's not a chirpy, upbeat film because almost all the everything is shot on this set, which was like an old jail or mental hospital that was going to be demolished in
mm,
Hyderabad. So they like shot it over there before it was going to get demolished.
mm.
And it's about these three prisoners talking about the choices they made in their life, and she's asking them questions about it. And I read an interview where Nagesh Kukunur said that he specifically wrote the documentary filmmaker's role with Juhi Chawla in mind
Oh,
because
wow.
he wanted to cast someone who has this sort of naive honesty, and this
Mm,
person who can walk into a prison and be a complete blank slate, and who doesn't have any preconceived notions about what they are. So
mm.
again, it comes back to that thing about wishing the best and presuming the best in people, right? And just kind of providing a little bit of a contrast to the darkness of that
Mm-hmm.
movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought she did decently well.
Mm,
I thought she was good casting. It's also kind of alluded to that I mean, it's obvious that she's in a bad marriage in the movie, but
mm,
there's a little bit of an illusion that perhaps her husband beats her, but it's
mm,
not clear. It's not super clear. But
mm.
anyway, there were one or two dramatic scenes where unfortunately I feel like Juhi fumbled the ball a little. um and you can see when she's on screen with Nagesh Kukunur, and they have these more lighthearted kind of moments because they strike up a friendship with each other.
Mm.
There's such a warmth and a camaraderie and a sweetness to them. Like they're so adorable together. Like I love Nagesh Kukunur, and Nagesh and Juhi are adorable. But when she's in scenes with Nasir, he completely steals the show.
Well,
Like I mean, it's Nasir, I know, but like
he's gonna.
he's gonna. But then in those scenes, I was just kind of like, I feel like maybe you could have done a little bit more, Chewy. But I applaud her for doing that movie because it's so different. It's not
Mm-hmm.
heroine-esque at all.
Mm-hmm.
She's worn these starched cotton saris. Her hair is in a braid. She's worn a
Mm.
bindi. Nagesh Kokun apparently told her she was not allowed to wear any makeup, and she insisted on putting on at least a little bit of lipstick and eyeliner because she was not comfortable at all with the idea of being completely makeup free.
Have I ever seen her with her hair just in a braid? I don't know if I have, actually.
She's done a lot of films where she has her hair in pigtails,
Yeah, that's what I thought of. I was like, two
which is
braids.
very
Yes.
girly. No, but
Yeah.
this is like literally
Yeah.
like a braid. And I don't
Yeah.
know how old she was in this movie, but she must have been at least in her late 30s, I'm assuming, because it's
So she
towards
was
the.
born in 67, I believe. So when that came out, she would have been 36.
Okay, yeah, and she looks like she's in her like late 30s and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
that's around when she did that. So I actually liked Teen Diware. I didn't think it was as depressing as I thought it was going to be. It's obviously not a lighthearted subject matter,
Right.
but I'm glad I saw it. And I thought she was decent, could have been better. But again, I understand why it's I have such mixed feelings about this. I feel like I wish she had taken more risks in her career, but I feel like she also kind of knew what her shortcomings were
Yeah.
and maybe didn't want to push too much. I don't know. The other movie I watched was Mr. and Mrs. Khiladi.
Ah,
Um, because I like the David Dhawan movies, but
yeah.
I've seen mostly the Govinda movies.
Yeah.
And this one is very interesting. I don't know how I feel about this pairing, Beth, but it's Juhi with Akshay Kumar. And it's a
Huh.
strange, yeah, it's a strange pairing. She almost seems too grown up for him. And I don't mean grown
Uh-huh.
up like chronologically. He
Uh-huh.
just comes across as so immature and silly, and she comes across as like, I don't know, it's a very strange mixing of flavors, and I didn't quite enjoy it.
Mm.
And I realized why I preferred the David Dhawan movies that have Govinda in them, because anytime he deviates from Govinda and casts someone else,
Oh.
I don't like them anymore. So it was okay. There's a really funny song in it called Jab Tak Rahega Samose Mein Aloo. Tera Rahunga O Meri Shalu, because her name is Shalu. And I was like,
Cute,
I like this song. I've
cute.
always liked this song. And she was, you could tell she was just phoning it in this movie. Like,
Mm.
she's not bad. At no, I mean, comedy is her forte. And at no point in this movie am I thinking, oh, Ju is so bad in this. But she's not as good in it as she is in most of her
Mm.
comedy films. But also, Mr. and Mrs. Khiladi is not that great. Like, I would not recommend it to most David Dhawan fans. But she's a lot funnier in movies like, One Duka 4, Duplicate. I think she's so funny in Duplicate.
I do
Um,
too. Yeah.
yeah, she's funny. She's funny even in the lighthearted moments in Raja Ban Gaya Gentleman. So Mr. and Mrs. Khiladi is okay. And then I rewatched QSQT because that is literally one of my favorite movies. And I was like,
Oh.
I need to see something cute and pretty. And it was a great palate cleanser because I had a big grin on my face for like 3 hours. So I enjoyed that.
I'm gonna just stop you right there. On what planet? Okay, spoiler alert. This is Romeo and Juliet, and it ends in a not dissimilar way. On what planet is this a palate cleanser? Girl,
Oh my God. It's so pretty.
girl.
And they're so cute. But also remember, Beth, I like to cry.
Well, true.
But also the songs are so nice and it's so romantic. And
Oh
they're such
God.
babies in this
They are
movie.
BBs.
They're
They are
so cute and
BBs.
baby and so like rosy cheeked and darling. I love this movie. So, fun fact, my best friend Natasha has watched Qayamat Se Qayamat Tak 1 million times, except she has never watched the last 15 minutes of the movie. She switches it off right before the bad thing happens. It was like, what the hell? How have you managed to do this? And she's like, nope, I just end it and I pretend that they live happily ever after.
That is a force of denial I have never
It is.
witnessed
She's like,
before.
I enjoy all the good parts. And then just when I know the bad thing is going to happen, I switch it off and I'm like, yay.
One of the interesting things about that is to me, you would also have to start it about 10 minutes late because it opens with a suicide and a murder.
Oh, I feel like she's okay with that because it's not Juhi and Amir who are being killed in it. So she's fine with
Cool.
that.
Cool.
So she's like, everything is fine. And then she's like, okay, I'm done. Great movie. Enjoy it. Very good. Bye.
I mean,
Okay,
because
so
to me,
tell
this
me.
does not start with everything is fine at all. At all. Because the parents in this movie are awful.
Oh, of course they are. This movie is, it's like, it's a testament to bad parenting.
Oh,
They're bad
absolutely.
parents, they're bad
Absolutely.
people. They're the only normal people in this movie are actually Juhi and Amir.
I guess. And his friend.
Oh, his friend slash cousin, Rajzuchi.
Right.
Yeah. Okay,
Right.
so tell me which movies you watch. I know you watch
I
QSQT.
did, which was a first time for me, everyone. I had
I
somehow
know.
watched Hindi films for almost 20 years and I had never seen this because I don't like Romeo and Juliet. I had
Right.
purposely not seen it, but I was like, okay,
I
fine.
enjoy Romeo and Juliet very much.
Okay. Then I watched Hum Hain Rahi Pyar Ke.
Ah, yes.
I watched I s- I'm going in chronological order here. I started but did not finish because I ran out of time. Mina Dika, which is also a David Dhawan film,
Oh, I've
with
never seen
her
that one.
with Rishi and Vinod Khanna. And I'm enjoying
Oh,
it, so I plan to finish it. And of course, Kader Khan is there, and like the
yes.
usual guys. And then I ended, or my last chronologically was Yes Boss.
Ah, yes, that's a good
And I
one.
did recently rewatch Luck by Chance, which she's in, sort of briefly. So I'd seen one of her later roles pretty
Mm.
recently. So I didn't go as far into her filmography. But yeah, so I have that kind of 10-ish year window there to talk about.
Okay. So tell us what you thought about QSQT apart from the bad
I
parenting.
mean, it's just brutal, isn't it? And it's fascinating to me that this it took the world by storm as it did, and that am I remembering right that it won the national award or whatever for,
Oh, did
yeah,
it?
It won the National Film Award for Best Popular Film providing wholesome entertainment. This is not wholesome.
I feel it's
Why?
wholesome.
I'm serious. Why is this wholesome?
Well, because the bad people are the stupid parents who allow some ridiculous and moronic beef to continue for like decades or whatever. And they think that murder is the answer to problems, which clearly it is not. And no one tries to be a grown up in this movie. No one ever tries to have a conversation. They're just shouty and they get guns out and they're so stupid and immature. And then these poor kids who she's what, 18 and he's like 20 or whatever, or 21 at the max, and these poor kids are the only like voice of reason, and they're kind of like, well, let there be love. They're so like kumbaya and sweet.
I don't
And
I
then
don't
of
buy
course
their
they are
actions
gunned
as
down.
yeah, I don't buy them as reasonable. I buy them as teenagers who are,
Oh yeah.
convinced of their it's like Bobby, right? They're convinced that like we'll
Yeah.
run off and everything and they'll have to listen to us or it will be fine. You're like, famously
Did
never this is
you
fine.
did you enjoy their house construction and the bathing under the water wheel?
I will say I do think they're cute together, especially kind of as the film went along. At first, I was like, "Ooh, our debuts, a debutante," and I know she's not technically a debutante
Right.
there, but I was like, "Oh, this is rough." And I'm not saying I assume that they filmed the scenes in the order they happen in the movie, but I felt like as the re relationship progressed, I felt like those two seemed more comfortable on screen and everything. So
Mm,
by the end, I was buying their love pretty well. They were cute,
yeah.
but like they're cute. This is my problem with Romeo and Juliet, and I know it's from a different time, and I know people had shorter lives, blah 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 blah. But like this is just foolish. It's foolishness.
It is.
And I'm unmoved. But had I watched this for the first time when I was also
Mm.
14 or however that which is about how old I would have been when it came out, like I'm sure I would have loved it. Like, but this is just I don't understand on what planet this is wholesome entertainment. I really don't. I don't find this wholesome. Um, does wholesome mean teaches you a lesson? But like I don't feel like anybody learns anything in this film
I
because
actually don't know what wholesome means. I
well that
think
that and
I'm.
that
What does
award
that mean?
that award famously goes to all sorts of things where you're like, meh. So I mean, Chandni is one of them. That one I sort of Dar won it. Right? Dar won
What?
wholesome entertainment.
Okay, Dove is
Yes.
definitely not wholesome.
No.
No.
I mean, Hum Aapke Hain Kaun won it.
That is wholesome.
Fine. DDLJ won it. I'm also
Okay.
don't particularly find that one wholesome, I have to say.
Yeah.
Dil To Pagal Hai won it. Is this
Yeah,
this
that
is the
makes
Shah
sense.
Rukh Khan Award, apparently.
Right?
Kuch Hota Hai,
But Haley would qualify as wholesome.
Lagan. Now that
That's
one I
wholesome.
get, right? We're
Yes. Yeah.
playing cricket and defeating the British. That's fine.
Yes.
Devdas,
Oh no.
right? So this is Munabai MBBS,
Okay, then I
Virzara,
don't understand what this award
Rang de
means.
Basanti. That also does not seem wholesome
No.
to me exactly. Like they're revolutionary.
I
So,
feel like wholesome actually would be the Rishikesh Mukherjee brand of filmmaking.
right.
All Rishikesh Mukherjee films are wholesome.
Chuck Day won it. That I
That makes
get.
sense.
Oi, Lucky, Lucky, Oi.
No.
I love that film. I wouldn't call it wholesome. Three
Swadesh
Idiots.
get it.
Dabong. Dabong is not wholesome.
The bung is not wholesome.
What? What is this award? This Cuckoo Bananas award?
That's what we should call it, the Cuckoo Bananas Award.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like,
Okay, but did you
yeah,
like the songs of QSQT?
sure.
You didn't like the songs of
They're
QSQT?
fine. They're
Oh
fine.
my God.
This is an era that doesn't really speak to me musically from Indian cinema.
Okay.
For the most part, it's very, it just is, yeah, they're fine. I've heard them all before, of course.
Yeah.
Juhi's very cute in them,
She's
I
so
would
cute.
say, but
Yeah.
yeah, they didn't particularly move me.
This is also the only movie in which I have ever found Amir Khan attractive because there was this tiny little window when he
I
had
actually
this.
did with my water there.
Well, because he was so adorable and so cute and so boy next door. And he has that whole like Michael J. Fox and Back to the Future vibe, like, the moppity cute
Yeah, I
hair
can
and
see
the
that.
the
Yeah,
rosy cheeks and the cuteness
yeah,
happening.
yeah.
Um, and he's just so like earnest and adorable in
He is
this movie.
earnest.
Like this is
Yep.
one of the few movies where I'm just like, oh, Mer. And then later on he just became annoying. But I also Juhi looks so stunning in
Yeah.
this movie. Like in those salwar kameezes with her like her hair, the soft waves or whatever that hairstyle is called, and the sunset shots. Like she is just
The whole
the
plot
woman
point
was
about
born to
this,
be a star.
the whole plot point about the sunset is very clever. I can see what you did there because
Yes.
it gave him a
The
lot of those great golden hour
foreshadowing.
shots and everything. It was very
Yeah.
pretty. And like, yeah, we all know what a sunset means, but like, very
Yes.
cute. Yeah, and I did genuinely like that she is the one who is articulates first, like,
Hmm.
we should, I'm into you, like, let's
Yeah.
be together. I thought that was cute and
Yeah.
good. Like, but I liked seeing that.
Yeah. But of course, it is meant, I mean, obviously, like if I'm watching it at my age, I'm going to have different thoughts about these. Like when I'm looking at
Yes.
them, I'm thinking, oh my God, you kids, like how are you supposed to survive? Like, what is it? What does he do? He's a woodcutter? I don't understand. And he's building this house, but like, what happens when it rains though? Like, I'm thinking of all these practical
Yeah,
things, right? And I'm like, well,
I
what if you
know.
get sick? Like, what if you need a tetanus vaccination? But this is the problem with watching this movie at my age, where I'm just like, no, 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 you guys don't do that.
Don't
Like, I
do
want to be
it.
sensible and practical. But when I watched it, I was a kid
Sure.
and I was just taken with it. So I completely understand where the Khan's stardom comes from, because
Hmm.
Maine Pyar Kiya for Salman, Qayamat Se Qayamat Tak for Amer, and then DDLJ for Shah Rukh. Those three movies, they just catapulted them into stardom because they came in at a time that young girls did not have anyone to swoon over. The only people we swooned
Mm,
over at that point were Hollywood actors. There was Tom Cruise
mm,
and Brad Pitt and people like that. But there was no one in the Hindi scene because all the older actors, they were all uncles at this point, right?
mm.
Like I was not swooning over Rishi Kapoor in his sweaters and Vinod Khanna and any of these people with gray at their temples. Like that was not the vibe. But
Sure.
then we saw these guys and it was like, oh my God. And of course, when you're young and starry eyed, the idea of running away into the sunset and rebelling against your parents and
Sure.
being like, we'll make it on our own. That sounds great. Of course we will. No, you
Yeah.
won't.
Yeah.
But yeah, but you can see the star power she has. Like she was born to be a star.
I did not have that reaction. I thought
Really?
she was pretty rough for a lot. Yeah, not for all of it, but I find her pretty awkward in parts of it. I think
Okay.
she's charming
Right.
and they are cute together, but if I isolate her as
Mhm.
an actor or as a star, not there for me.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I'm very taken with her in this movie. Funnily, as the years go by, I find myself less taken with her.
Oh,
But I
interesting.
think QSQT for me is like my favorite Juhi movie, if I
Uh,
had to pick a movie. Because after that, she did all these like terrible like movies like, Bol Rata Bol and stuff like that. And it's kind of like, not the vibe. And she's always in these like ghagra cholis and the pigtails. And it just, one movie runs into the next. You can't tell them apart from each other after a point. And then she does a whole bunch of movies that I watch not for her
mm,
but for Shah Rukh. So this is kind of one of the few films where I watch the movie for Juhi and I
mm,
watch it for Amir and I watch it
mm-hmm,
for the music,
mm-hmm,
where there's no caveats and it's just I just enjoy all
mm-hmm,
of it.
mm-hmm.
Okay, tell me about the other movie that you saw.
So let's see. Then I watched. Oh, I'm getting my order all mixed up here. Oh, Hain Rahi Pyar Ke. Have you
Mm,
seen this one?
ages ago, so I don't remember too much, but I remember it being very cute and funny, and
It's cute.
it's
Yeah.
like a gaggle of kids.
Yeah. So Amir, his sister and brother-in-law, or brother and sister-in-law, whichever it is, sister, whatever, have died suddenly, and he has to take care of their three kids. And the
Okay.
movie opens with the lawyer telling him that, like, there's no,
Ah,
and the factory that these people had, he has to run it until the kids come of
okay.
age. And the kids
Okay.
are like, I don't know, 11, 9, and 6, or I don't know, something like that. And the little baby one is Kunal Kemu, and he's so cute.
Oh,
He's so cute and good in this movie. Like, what a good actor he is. It's
okay.
adorable. And then Juhi, her father, I don't know how old she's supposed to be, like 18, 19 or something. And her father's
Oh,
trying to arrange her marriage to this odious classical dancer who's like slimy and yucky. And so she
okay.
runs away, and the kids have run away from their, Amir had promised to take them to the fair, but then he had to work late
Okay.
because because Dalip Tahil again plays a an evil business colleague who, ordered a certain number of things
Of
and he didn't
course.
get them, and like because the factory underwent changes and whatever. So then he has to go meet him or something. And then so the kids run off to the fair and they meet up and they're all very cute. They do a dance number to try to win a contest.
Okay.
They're really cute. She's very good with these kids. I think
Mm.
Amir is good with kids too.
He
I'm
is.
sure people have
Yeah.
talked about that, but when I think about even the films of his I've seen, he very deliberately chooses films with children, and that
Yep.
is, he's great at that. And
Hmm.
um, a lot of people on Blue Sky were telling me, "Oh, I watched that when I was little," or my parents and I love to watch that one together. And I get
Yeah.
it until the basic end. It's a very kid-friendly movie. I would think at the
Yeah.
end just ends the way everything you'd think it would. But yeah, so they have adventures, and then she, when Amir, and then there's this whole scene of her hiding in their house. The kids are trying to hide her from Amir because he doesn't know she's
Oh,
there. And then eventually, like, he hires her to work there, and then they fall in love because, of course, they do.
okay.
It's very cute.
So is she
Um,
like their sort of like a de facto nanny?
yeah,
Okay.
briefly. And they call her their sister. And like, well, you maybe
Okay.
don't want to do that because then your uncle's going to get with her. So like,
All
don't call her your,
right.
but like, you're 10. I get it. Um, the kids are always pulling pranks. Of course, they are. And little Kunal came over with his prank. He's so cute. He's
Oh.
so cute. And I think Amir's really funny in this movie too, because he has a lot of like, what's going on here kind of role.
Right.
And when he comes into the factory that he's inherited, it's a garment making thing. I'm tempted to call it a sweatshop, but we're supposed to
Okay.
like him as the business owner. But it's a bunch of women with sewing machines making garments. It's a garment factory,
Right.
and they all are in love with him. They're like, "Oh, he's so cute. Oh, we'll do anything." And then at the end of the film, because they something their factory and house are going to get auctioned off if they don't raise enough money.
Mm.
And so at the end, they have to do all this extra work to make the garments to get to Dalip Tahil,
Okay.
whose daughter, by the way, is in love with Amr, and Amr has told her no, and then she like gets her dad to work against him. Um,
Mm. Who plays the daughter?
that is, she's not someone I had seen before.
Okay.
Navneet Nishan.
Oh yeah, she was a TV actor. She was mostly famous for television. She used to do a show called Tara, and
Mm,
my husband used to enjoy watching that show, like ironically because it was so bad.
nice.
And he told me that when they would advertise it, like they'd be like, Har Sombar, Raat 9 baje, whatever. The ad for a while was because there was this big episode that happened where Tara, which was Navneet Nishan, slaps someone. She slaps this other person, and she goes, "Shut up, you bitch." And then she
Oh, I
slaps
love
her,
it.
and then it says, Tara. So for the longest time, if I was watching a movie and Navneet Nishan was on screen, my husband would go, "Oh, it's her." And I'd be like, "Do you want to do it?" And he'd be like, "Yes." Shut up, you bitch. Tara.
Please send this clip to me. I must see it.
Yeah, I will
Um,
look for it on YouTube. Also,
so it,
quick note,
yeah,
why does Dilip Tahil's villainy always, why is it always like a white collar business crime that he does? He's never a hench dude. He's too polished for that.
I feel like I have seen him as a hench dude in the
Have you?
70s,
Was
but
he
I'm
believable?
not sure. But he's not like Ranjit, but
No.
but yeah, mostly I know him as a white collar hench
Yeah.
dude.
There's always like embezzlement involved when Dilip Tahil is on screen.
Well, and before we leave this topic, Pitu messaged me while she was watching QSQT. She's like, he does not get enough credit for being hot. And what's funny is that I had almost texted her the exact same thing because in QSQT, he's very good looking with the beard and the shades of the gray in his hair. I
Yeah.
mean, he's
And
not
he's so like,
unattractive regularly, but like I'd never
yeah.
really noticed it before. I was like, this is your look.
And also,
Murderous
like, he's wearing these
grudge
gray
holder.
jackets and he's
Yeah.
so dour and
Yeah.
sad because he spent like the best years of his life in jail. And I was like, I am oddly attracted to the Dilip Tahil. What is happening?
Hmm.
And then I WhatsApped to Beth and I completely thought Beth was going to be like, oh, shut up. That's so stupid. And Beth was like, oh my God, I thought the same thing.
I was like, Amir Schmamir. So in the end
You're
of
like, I'm
this,
going for daddy.
yeah, at the end of this movie, Amir gives this impassioned speech to all the garment workers saying,
Okay.
I I'm desperate. The only way we're going to survive is if we pull like a triple shift, BT dubs. Oh, and then he says, I
I have
won't fault anyone
overtime.
who can't stay, but BT dubs, I can't pay you now, but I'll pay you even more later. And I
Okay.
paused this, and one of my best friends is a historian of labor, and I texted him, I was like,
Mm.
this is how bosses are presented in mainland. in
Right.
some mainstream indie films. And I put on Blue Sky, I'm like, I hope these garment workers have a very good contract. Because like this is
Yes.
because then one of them stands up is like, sir, we're honored that you ask us for help. Because usually people only ask for help from among their own, but this means that you consider us your peer, basically. We're with you. And they all stand up and do like a fist in the air, like, I'll do 6 extra hours. I'll do 8 for you, sir. I'll do 20. And you're like, I know I spoke before in some film about how we love to depict servants as like loving their masters and all this baloney. And
Yes.
this was like barf, barftastic.
Yeah, but that was also one of the issues, well, among the many issues, but one of the issues I had with Veer Zara, where I was like, does Divya Datta not have a life? Poor
Right.
Divya Datta, not just in Veer Zara, but also in Lutera. She's
Yeah.
always like this maid who ends up making the whoever person's life her own life, and she never
Yeah.
has a life of her own.
Nope.
And that's just her life, is to make life better for these people. Yeah, but that was, yes, I
That
agree.
was really barfy, especially with they are for the most part women his age or older, I just like them subservient to this little twinkle faced rich. And he's not like a
Twinkle
mega rich
face.
guy. His house is a very reasonable size. Like obviously he's been
Right.
saddled with these kids. He left university to come take care of them, if I understood correctly.
Okay.
Anyway, but that was of note. However, apart from that, this movie's very cute, especially kind of up until they fall in love. I highly
Right.
recommend it. It's adorable. And it's directed by Mahesh Bhatt, curiously. I know.
What?
I know. It's
My brain
I
cannot
know.
fathom that.
And Amir co-wrote the screenplay, apparently.
Okay, that
Um,
I can believe
but
because it
it's
seems
it's
more
very it's
Amirish.
very cute. Watch it for Juhi, who is I mean,
Mm,
because I chose this because somewhere I read that this was the thing that cemented her as a comic actress. So I wanted
okay.
to see that. She's extremely funny, and
She's
and
so
they
funny.
all are. But I mean, see it for Juhi and Kunal Khemu, honestly, like so cute. You can turn it off after a certain point if you want, but watch the first like two
I mean,
thirds.
they're
Adorbs.
very cute in the songs as well. I really like that
Yeah,
song "Bombay Se Gayi Pune, Pune Se Gayi Delhi." Like she's cute in
yeah.
that. Like it's a, yeah, it's a cute
That's the
movie.
one where they're trying to win the contest.
Ah, okay,
But it doesn't
got
matter.
it.
They just run out again. Doesn't that whole doesn't enter in. And then I watched so then I the next year saw this Ina Mina Dika with David Dhawan.
Okay,
I'm about 2/3, no, 1/3 of the way through it. I really like it. Vinod Khanna and Rishi are well, Vinod Khanna was a criminal. He goes to jail. Rishi is a small-time thief, gets out of jail. His ma has a like when he
I do
arrives
not
back
believe Rishi
home.
is a thief.
Well, and he's how old? Like in his early 40s in this
Yeah, I'm not
movie, and
buying that.
he's not really looking like a lower
No.
class kind of guy. Anyway, so he has to steal money to get his ailing ma's Dilka surgery, as they
Okay.
say. And I thought that was so funny somehow. I don't like my Hindi grammar's enough that I know what that means, but I just thought that was really funny. Dilka surgery. Um, and then but then he goes to rob a bank and Vinod is there trying to open an account legit, and then he gets tangled up in the bank robbery,
Okay.
and then they take Juhi, who is the police inspector, who is Anupam Kher, because of course, takes her
Wait, Juhi is the
hostage.
police inspector?
His daughter, his daughter.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Anupam Kher's daughter. They're on the run. There's a wanted poster out for them, and then Kader Khan and Shakti Kapoor are trying to get the reward and whatever. And it's the usual stuff. It's funny, but
Okay.
it's also this has Shakti Kapoor doing on screen maybe the most vile stuff I've ever seen him do,
And he's done a
because
lot of wild
he is
stuff.
playing uh at least so again, I'm not even quite halfway through, but at this point his character is facially deformed with like an eye kind of set lower. He's wearing prosthetics. He's holding his hands like this, like he can't has stunted limbs and can't move
Like a
them or
T-Rex?
something. Kinda. So he's supposed to be physically deformed, I think has some kind of brain development issues. And I was like,
Oh,
why are we stereotyping beggars like street beggars? Like and Kader Khan is his like their but it's gross. It's really gross.
right.
So it's in some ways maybe not. I mean, he's done so many vile things on screen we won't
Right.
touch off screen, but so why I'm kind of sorry for him actually that this is something that someone asked him to do, but that David Dhawan asked him to do.
Right.
It's yucky. Anyway, but this movie is has some good comedy in it so far. And to see Vinod and Rishi together again is
Yeah.
fun. And Vinod as bank robber is of course like, he's a
Right.
good thief. And at the beginning of it, he actually goes to the head of his gang, who is Kiran Kumar, and says, "I'm not going to be a robber
Oh,
anymore for you. I'm going to go live
okay.
my own life," which is what he does in Kurbani.
Yeah. In the first Khan movie, yes.
Yeah. So, and somehow I'll just note this is not important, but somehow I thought I had seen or read that Jitendra was in this film. So when the
Oh.
film opens and Vinod gets out of a Jeep dressed as a police officer because he's pulling another heist, and I was like, "That's not Jitendra," and I was like, it takes the shades off, and I was like, "Great, that is Vinod Gana.
I know.
Thank you, movie." So I will finish it, but it is a bit of a mixed bag. And then I rewatched Yes Boss, which I had not
Ah,
seen in
yes.
almost 20 years. I watched it very early on.
I know. I can't remember the last time I've seen Yes Boss, but I actually watched Yes Boss in the theater when it came out. I watched it at
Mm,
New Excelsior in
nice.
Mumbai, and my mom watched it with me, and we were supposed to have like a mom and daughter date.
Aw,
And we went to a restaurant that we really like. It's called Vittel's. I don't know if Vittel's still exists or not, but it's not far from New Excelsior. So we went to Vittel's. We had lunch over there. Shubha Kote and her daughter were at the table next to us,
oh
which was
wow.
fun. Yeah, and then we went to watch Yes Boss, and my mom fell asleep in the movie theater within 15 minutes. This is why I don't watch movies with my mom, Beth.
Well,
No,
I
my
have
mom
to
falls asleep in all movies.
I have to tell you, I might be with your mom on this one, shockingly. This is the Shah Rukh show, right? It is his
Yes.
movie. Now, Juhi, as you were saying in the beginning, reacts beautifully,
Hmm.
charmingly, um,
Pretty.
rationally within the world of the film.
Yes.
I like that her character is allowed to be kind of ambitious and shallow and
Hmm.
money grubbing
Yeah.
and kind of dumb or naive or
Yeah.
something like you're this is not how the world actually works kind of thing,
Yeah.
and then learning and growing, right? I really like that for her. I found this movie incredibly long, and I kept looking at my watch
Oh.
going, are we still have an hour and a half left? Like, what else is gonna? So I did
Does it
enjoy
have
it.
like a much longer runtime than normal, or is it just that the
No,
pacing is slow?
I just felt like they were taking too long with everything
Okay,
somehow. Let's
like
see,
just
how long
dragging
is
it.
this movie? Yeah, somehow to me, it's 165 minutes. So
Okay.
what's that? Over an hour and a half long, 2.5 hours, I mean. I think
I
they
mean,
could
that's
have
kind of
trimmed it.
standard.
Yeah, it is. Somehow it felt very long
Mm,
to me. And I wasn't annoyed with anyone. I was just annoyed that it seemed to be taking a long time to
okay.
have all these because of course I suspect most people listening to this have seen this film.
Mm-hmm.
um, it's one of those a ruse goes too far kind of stories, which so you do have to almost have several instances of like almost getting caught or
Yeah.
escalation and whatever, but it was just I take one or two iterations off or something for me,
Maybe just needed crisper editing.
something like that. But
Okay.
then again, I can't point to a particular scene that
Mm-hmm.
I would, other than showing Aditya Pancholi's character to be the monster that he is.
Yeah.
I would, but those have to quote unquote be there, blah blah blah. But yeah, I can't tell you what about it was so dragging for me, but it really was
Mm.
dragging. And maybe it was just my mindset or something. But for the Juhi factor, great. It's not her film, but she is very fun in it.
Mm-hmm.
For everyone who loves that pairing, I get it. It for him, it's up there for me. For her, I haven't really seen enough of her with other people consistently to have a strong second runner, but for sure, I love them together. They're very funny.
Yeah.
They have a physical energy that vibes
Yeah.
together really well. Like it's not that she's quite as or being asked to do quite as much physical stuff as he is, because he's literally doing cartwheels and somersaults and like
Yeah.
flying all over the place in this film. So she's not doing that, but she is. And what's that song where they're kind of like sparring with each other the whole, like she's got a baseball bat and then he's leaping
Oh,
around.
yeah. Is it
Um,
I'm the Best?
well, that's a different movie.
No, that's from One Two
Uh,
Kapoor.
Isn't that from
Yeah.
Phir Bhi Dil Hai Hindustani?
Is it? Okay. Well, see,
One of those.
All
One of
of the
those.
Shah Rukh Juhi movies are blending
Yeah.
together for me, except for
Yeah.
Dar.
So anyway, super cute. Watch it if you haven't. if it has ever dragged for you, I would be interested to know about that. Any listeners,
Mm,
please tell me because I don't know, sometimes you're just not in the mood for a thing, even though you chose it very willingly and like, I'm gonna choose this one to watch. Because I did
right.
almost choose Phir Bhi Dil Hai Hindustani, but I was like, no,
Okay.
let's go a little further back and
Yeah.
um,
I
but
love
I
Shah
liked it.
Rukh and Juhi in that song, मैं कोई ऐसा गीत गाऊं, आरज़ू जगाऊं अगर तुम कहो. She's in the yellow dress and he's doing all the things. He's in that black
Oh, that is
overcoat.
why I put my yellow sweater on for this
Oh,
filming if you're
okay.
watching on YouTube because I was realizing in that song I think of yellow when I think of Juhi and I wonder if
Yes.
it's because of that song. I would never been able to articulate that to
No,
you, but
yellow is her color.
she's also wearing yellow in the beginning, so she has like the yellow leopard print on in the car, but then when she's on her scooter, she has a yellow skirt on. So I do think of like a sunshine yellow as kind of her
Yeah.
color.
There's
Um
she's also worn this really pretty yellow sari among many other pretty saris in Dar, in the
yeah,
romantic song that she has.
yes,
Yellow is 100% Juhi's color. It's kind of like how I think of Madhuri as orange because
orange.
she looks so good
Yeah.
in orange. I think of Juhi as yellow because
And
it is
Smita
just,
is red.
yes,
Yeah.
because it's just the embodiment of like sunshine and vivacity and just she's sunshine bear. If she was a Care Bear, she would be sunshine bear.
I any film that has someone who's a model and you get to, or a sort of, she's kind of a spokesmodel, we used to say in
Yeah.
Star Search in the 80s in the US, like, doing product placements
Yeah.
rather than like high fashion modeling. But there's that
Right.
scene in the fashion show where she comes down the runway. Do you remember this?
Mm-mm.
And she's wearing kind of a gold outfit. And she has this sheer kind of overlay thing and she has it in both hands and she kind of just swirls it around. I was like,
Okay.
I thought you were, I feel like Miss India should be able to do better than this with that. It looked like she was just really floundering. Now, maybe she was supposed to do that. I don't know, but
Mm.
I think it was supposed to be sort of like, oh, I'm magical and alluring, but it just looked sort of
Right.
fluffy. I don't know why I thought that was so funny, but anyway, yes, Boss
It's
definitely deserves a rewatch, I think.
it's also funny because like you mentioned Miss India, and I was having a conversation the other day with my husband about how Miss India used to be such a big deal. And then of course Miss World and Miss Universe, like all of those pageants used to be such a big deal. And the is, if I'm not mistaken, I think the only two Miss Indias that really went on to have massive careers in Bollywood were basically Juhi Chawla and then Aishwarya Rai, right? Because all the other Miss Indias, they
Oh,
were never like,
is
hmm?
Priyanka not Miss India?
Oh yes, you're right,
And
Priyanka Chopra
Lara
also.
Dutta and
Yeah,
Sushmita?
but Lara Dutt and Sushmita never made it to the heights that these
Hmm.
people did, right? Or like Dia Mirza. And then in the past, you had people like Sonu Walia, right? Like Sonu
Yep.
Walia was a Miss India, but she always played like these tiny little roles here and there. So it was almost like this stereotype. Or then, you had Namrata Shirodkar, who was also like,
Oh
didn't really
yeah.
make it big either.
Yeah.
So there was, I feel like Juhi was like the first Miss India who really made it in
Mm.
Bollywood. No one else could like crack that code until her. And then after her, it was eventually only Aishwarya, well, and also Priyanka. Who came first? Aishwarya came first.
Yep.
It I think they were the only others who were able to like, make it. But it's so interesting to me because even though Juhi Chawla was a Miss India, and she was actually a very successful model before she became an actress and like Sultanate and stuff like that. Like
Hmm.
I've seen ads of her, like print ads of like cutout saris and things like that, like a tea brand and random stuff like that. Like she would come in
Is
TV
it
commercials all the time.
is it mostly kind of everyday sort of domestic
Yes.
oriented products? Yeah.
Yes.
She's not, so I find the
She's
Indian
not
English,
high fashion.
yeah, Indian English uses the word glamour in a different way
Yeah.
than I feel like the American English I was raised speaking does, which is so fat. I love all these word differences.
Right.
She is not glamorous, right?
Exactly. And I actually think that that worked in her favor because the
Yeah.
point I was getting to is my theory is, and of course I could be wrong, and I'm happy to hear what our commentators have to say, but I feel like the reason the Miss Indias never made it in Bollywood until Juhi Chawla is precisely because they were too glamorous,
Too
or
sexy.
they were too sexy. They were a lot of times they were stick thin, which does not work for a heroine. A lot of
Hmm.
times they were very comfortable walking down the ramp, but they were not comfortable being able to do like a typical Indian like filmy dance, for example,
Mm.
right? So she was the first one who was actually not glamorous, and she was very wholesome and girl next doorish, and that's why I think it worked. It's kind of like all those Miss Indias were like Veronica's, and she was the first Betty, and that I think is what made it work. And then I think Aishwarya had a perfect combination of, she was definitely glamorous and high fashion and all of those things, but then she also could do the other stuff. But yeah, Juhi was always, she was like a print model.
Zeenat Aman was Miss India.
Zenith One was Miss India? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, well there you go. Then she was the first super successful one.
Oh,
Um,
Meenakshi. Meenakshi was also Miss India.
she was a Miss India?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Well, then my whole theory goes out the window. Because Zenith is the definition of glamour.
But it was a different era also, right? It was the
It is
because
also a
when you
different
were
era.
talking about kind of what you feel Juhi's uniqueness is, I was thinking about and the line from Madhubala, and that there you didn't really
Mm,
find any points along it until her. Of course, I
yeah.
was thinking about the 70s as I am want to do. And I was like,
Mm,
yeah, none of the 70s women to me fit this. And I guess
mm-mm,
it's, that was not needed or wanted then. Like we were looking for
mm-hmm,
women to portray other things at that time. So I lump
mm-hmm.
myself we in there as though I was part of the Indian film audience in the 1970s.
Right.
Um, Thank you for having me. Uh, um, yeah, so it's interesting. But yeah, she's clearly, I mean, she really hit upon something and
Yeah.
people love. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say they don't like her. I've heard plenty of people say
Right.
they don't think she's the strongest actor or
Hmm.
dancer. No, no quibble from me.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever heard anyone say they don't enjoy her.
It would be the equivalent of saying you don't like puppies and kittens. Like, you can't say that. Like, what justification would you even give? Like, if someone legit,
I
like,
mean,
if
you have to
someone
be a
said to me,
psychopath, right? Like an
right,
actual
if someone
sociopath.
was like, I hate Juhi Chawla, I'd be like, okay, you're clearly wackadoo, because how can you not like her? But okay.
I can see people, I can imagine people being a little resentful of her career
Oh.
when if you think that there are people more talented than she is at the same
Mm,
time and she's getting opportunities they're not. I completely can get like the way
mm.
I'm resentful of Katrina Kaif, for example, right? Like I know there are people who can do all the things she can do better than she
Yes.
can do them, and there always have been and there always will be. So I can get feeling that way about Juhi, but
Mhm.
I've never heard from that person.
No.
They're probably out there, right? And it's like what we were saying with Madhuri, I don't literally never heard anyone say they don't like her.
Yeah.
So,
I think Juhi was also, I can't decide if she was just very strategic or very lucky or what the scene was, or if she just didn't really think about too many things and just like went along. But one thing about Juhi is that she has consistently avoided doing roles that were outside her comfort zone
hmm.
consistently. She has claimed in multiple interviews, and I've seen a video interview where she said that, where she said, and she said it in a very amicable, sweet way where you couldn't really find fault with what she said, but she said, I have made other actresses careers. And she was, I think, specifically talking about Karishma Kapoor, although she didn't say the name, because here are the movies that Juhi Chawla rejected. Fir bhi dil hai sorry, what is that movie? Raja Hindustani. I was, the Hindustani confused me. So Raja Hindustani, that was Karishma Kapoor and Amir Khan.
I'm
You
trying to
know it. It's
imagine.
the
Yeah,
Jab
yeah,
Jab
no, no.
Phool
I'm trying
Khile
to
remake.
imagine her being in that.
But that movie became a gigantic hit, and that
Yeah,
made Karishma a big hit, because until then she was a flop heroine.
right.
So Juhi rejected that one.
Huh.
Juhi also rejected, very famously. She rejected Dil To Pagal Hai because she said she didn't want to play second fiddle to Madhuri. Karishma then took that role, and then Karishma won the national award for that movie.
I mean, she couldn't have done the
Um,
dancing.
True, but you won't know until you try.
Well,
And
it's
also,
true. And they would
and
have
also,
choreographed it differently, probably, right? So,
exactly. Also, this is part of the reason why I give credit to Vidya Balan. I have not seen Bulbulaya 3 yet. I will once it comes on streaming, but I did watch the song
mm,
on YouTube. Vidya Balan is not as strong a dancer as
no,
Madhuri Zide. I mean, no one is. But she did go toe to toe with her and Ami J. Tomar. So again,
hmm,
how will you know if you don't try?
it's true.
Karishma is not in the same league either. But do not do the movie because, like, have some faith in Yash Chopra. The man knows what he's doing.
Well, that's
Like,
true.
yeah, it's Yash Chopra. I think he will present you well, and I think
Hmm.
he'll get you to do a dance where he'll make sure that Madhuri doesn't completely overshadow you, I'm
Right.
sure. But like, at least give it a
Right.
shot. She didn't even try. So
Mm.
there's all these movies that she's done. Judai. She was offered the role of Urmila Matondkar in Judai, which that movie was also a big hit. She said no because she didn't want to play second fiddle to Devi.
Oh, that would have been so different.
It would have
Because
been different, but
Urmila has that kind of like naughtiness to her.
yes, the mischief. But
Ooh, that would have been interesting.
But again, it's like, what is with this insecurity of, I mean, I just think it smacks of insecurity where you're like, I don't want to play second fiddle to Madhuri. I don't want to play second fiddle to Devi. Don't think of it as playing second fiddle. Think of it as
Second
learning and
lead.
growing,
Yeah.
spreading your wings as an actor, and maybe you'll do a really good job. And it's like she just shied away from these roles, and instead, what did she do? She kept doing the same iterations of the same movies where they all blend together.
Although
And
then she did do like I Am Onir, right? And she did the film that you were talking about. So she does have some
My
choices that
brother
are,
Nikhil, right?
or My
But
Brother
she's
Nikhil, that's
not
what I meant. Yeah.
but she's not competing with the top heroine in
No,
those,
no.
right?
Okay.
So she's
Yeah.
safe there in a way. Like, same thing with Teen Diware, right?
So
Like,
she does do some different things, but they're not
she
some of
won't
the
go toe to
mainstream
toe
risks. Yeah.
with anyone
Yeah.
else, and it's
Yeah.
just strange to
Mm,
me that she doesn't do that, because
mm.
I I mean, I love Urmila and Judai, so no complaints there.
No,
But
no.
maybe give that a shot. Or Karishma and Datta. So she's famously said that she basically made other actresses curse. And there was a fourth movie that I was reading up, like four big blockbusters that
Mm.
Juhi rejected. Let me see. I should have Googled that. I had Googled it earlier, and my memory has failed me. Juhi Chawla. I think it was a Karishma Kapoor movie. There were like three movies she rejected.
I do love her in
So she rejected Raja Hindustani Judai, Dil To Pagal Hai. And there was another one. Yeah, what were you saying?
she is in I Am. I forgot that. That's the one I was trying to think of by Onir.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Um
Is it good?
she's so good in Paheli, in that very
She
quiet
is.
um but she's never toe to toe with Ronnie. They're very different, they're not the same tier of character
Right.
at all. So,
Yeah. Oh, I found out what that other movie was. It was BV number one.
no.
So the David Dhawan movie, again with Karishma and Salman. So she rejected that one as well. And
Interesting.
it's like, okay, none of this makes any sense to me, but cool, go ahead. And she did say in an interview recently that she kind of regrets rejecting those films because it was basically fear and insecurity that kept her from doing those movies. But yeah. Did you hear anything else interesting about Juhi from your Bluesky people?
No, no. And it was one of those moments where I wish I still a little bit still was on Twitter so I could have reached maybe gotten a broader just more numbers of
Audience.
answers, right, to
Yeah.
see what people were saying. But in my world, as I expect that of many, she is inextricably linked with Shah Rukh. That is a reason
Yes.
people have seen her as my and feel a fun and partially why they feel fondly about her, right? But
For
that
sure.
as much as I may wish that weren't true, that is true. That's just,
She,
Jodie is important in mainstream Hindi cinema.
yes. I will say I do also enjoy her with Amir. And
Yeah.
I feel like she has a little bit more equal footing with Amir, though. Because I think
Oh,
in the Amir
interesting.
films I've seen her in, I don't find that he takes over as much as Shah Rukh does. But it also could be because I don't watch movies for Amir the way I do for Shah Rukh.
Right.
Like, for example, with Amir, she's done Hain Rahi Pyar Ke, like you said. And
Mhm.
if I'm remembering correctly, I feel like they have fairly equal footing. It's not like
Yeah.
he's the scene
No.
stealer. They were also together in Ishq, which
Oh,
also has
yeah.
Kajal and Ajay
Yeah.
Devgan. Again, they're
Yeah.
kind of equal footing there as
Yeah.
well. So her Jodie with Amir, and of course they started with QSQT. So I
Yeah.
feel like her Jodie with Amir is also successful, but it's a little bit more equal, for lack of a
Hmm.
better word,
Hmm.
than with Shah Rukh, where it's kind of like Shah Rukh is the main guy and Juhi happens to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen Darar?
No.
I do not recommend it. So when Sleeping with the Enemy became a big giant hit, in Hollywood.
Oh no.
There was a race in Bollywood to make that movie because Sleeping with the Enemy was such a good film, right? Like I love that movie. And so they made three Hindi films, and it was a race to see who could release theirs first. And only one of the three became a hit and was popular. So Agni Sakshi came out, which had Manisha Koirala playing the Julia Roberts role, and Nana Patekar was the bad husband. That was the one that became the hit, and that was actually the best one of the lot. Then there
Hmm.
was Yarana, which had Madhuri, and the bad guy was Raj Babbar, and I think the hero in that was Rishi Kapoor. It has that famous song "Mera Piya Ghara," but that movie's bad. And then the third one was Darar, and that was Juhi was the Julia Roberts role, and the bad guy was Arbaz Khan, and that movie is terrible. Darar is so bad because Arbaz Khan has no acting chops.
No, he
So
does
he
not.
is like, you see Nana Patekar and Agni Sakshi, and he's terrifying. And then you see Arbaz Khan in Darar, and it's so bad. And then you see Manisha Koirala and Agni Sakshi, and she's so good. And then you see Juhi in Darar, and she just fumbles the ball again. So it's like,
Hmm.
I do not recommend watching any of those
Oh,
Sleeping with the Enemy iterations.
that's Arbaz's debut film.
Oh, is it? Okay. Well, he did bad.
I so have I seen Juhi and Rishi together in anything except Ina Mina Dika?
I
Because
mean,
I know their ages don't stack up super well, although as we've commented, that was not stopping him at this time. But
yes.
I can see them being a fun pair.
Yes, but also we're together. Okay, so here's the thing. So I've seen a few of those. I've seen Bol Radha Bol way too many times. I never wanted to see, but my cousin, my baby cousin, was obsessed with the songs in Bol Radha Bol. So anytime it would come on television, my cousin would insist on watching it. So I've seen
Funny.
this movie against my wishes because we were stuck in my grandparents' house and I had no choice and there was one television.
Hmm.
Anyway, so I don't enjoy the Rishi and Juhi pairing because they almost have a sibling chemistry to them,
Ah,
which is very weird because they're almost like too much of the same flavor, if you know what I mean.
mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
they're both girl next door, boy next door, and cute. And she has these pigtails and he's wearing these sweaters. And it's just kind of like, it's not it. Neither of them has an ounce of like sex appeal or it's very like it's very bhai behen to me. I don't buy their romance. It's just
That's funny.
it's not it. I would not recommend that Jodi. Maybe when Juhi, because of the age gap, like I could see her being a very Neeta Singh esque pairing with Rishi if
Yeah.
she had been young at the time of
Yeah.
the Rishi Neetu pairing. That would have been great.
Yeah.
But by the time they did movies together, he was firmly an uncle
Mm-hmm.
and she was way younger than him. And it's a very strange, like almost like avuncular energy. It's so weird. I do not recommend this pairing.
I was trying to think if so Neetu is one of the people that came to mind for me when I was thinking about what Juhi does, and I find them
Mm,
different somehow. I can't
they are
articulate why, which
different.
is why I do not feel Neetu as a stop on the thread through time
Yeah.
of this type of heroine. I
Neetu
find them
has
different.
the difference between them is that Neetu does not come across as naive.
True.
Neetu comes across as she's sweet and she's bubbly, but there's an edge to her
Yeah.
and she's sharp. She is
Yeah.
nobody's fool and she doesn't have that wide eyed thing that she
Right.
has going on. That naivete, I think,
Hmm.
is in Madhubala, and then boom, directly you find that. I think that's why also Preeti is not exactly the
No,
Juhi
not
copy
exactly. No.
because Preeti also has some of that edge and a little bit of that
Preeti and Neetu
shrewdness.
are similar to me as well.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I think the Juhi, you have to go back to like Chalti Ka Naam Gaadi and Half Ticket and all of those Madhubala Kishore Kumar screwball comedies to see that same thing happening. But yeah, very cool.
What flavor ice cream is she?
Bubblegum!
Sure.
So I had two options in mind. I thought of bubblegum, and then my other option was a lemon sorbet
Ooh,
because
yellow.
sorbets are just light and fluffy. There's no milk or cream in them. So they're just kind of just nice on a really hot, humid
Mm,
day, just
hmm
refreshing.
hmm
But I feel like there's a little bit of tartness to lemon, which I don't think she has, which is why then I just went back to bubblegum. So
mm.
bubblegum ice cream. What about you?
Well, I had two thoughts, and lemon was also one of them because of the
Okay.
yellow. But I was
Yeah.
thinking lemon ice cream, actually, which you
Hmm.
know do sometimes find. We have
Oh,
a
I've
local.
never had it.
It's so good. It's so good. And
Oh,
it's a little less tart than a sorbet. Usually I mean,
okay.
it's creamy and sugary
Yeah.
but still, you know, still has
Mm,
lemon refresher to it. Highly recommend, or
okay.
gelato lemon, you know, delicious.
Mm.
Um, it is very good with chocolate on it, interestingly. I know lemon and chocolate is not a pair that comes up super
That is
often, but
not.
it's super good. But then I was thinking about, and I was trying to remember if I'd said this about someone else. We really need to make a signboard so we can remember who's what ice cream flavor. You know, at Christmas they bring out peppermint ice cream.
Yes, peppermint bark and yeah.
Yeah, and often it's pink and it's got little green and red flecks in it, or even just like red. It's got actual peppermint candy crushed up in it.
Hmm.
And the reason I say that is because for me, it's sweet, it's pretty, it's basically what you expect. But every now and again, if you crunch down on one of the little peppermint candies, you kind of do a face like with your eyes wide and your eyebrows up. And
Okay.
that is the face I think of when I think of Juhi. She's like smiling really big, but with her eyes wide and her eyebrows up, kind of a comedy face, right? But
Yeah.
also, uh, you know, I love a surprise, like kind of like a little kid, like give me you know, someone's
Yeah.
handed her a puppy or something like that.
It's
That
a
kind
little
of
I Love
energy.
Lucy.
Very I Love Lucy.
It's very
Yes,
I Love Lucy.
exactly.
Yeah.
In that regard, I should just make her chocolate bonbon ice cream flavored somehow because of those famous scenes with
Right.
I Love Lucy. But yeah, so something that gives you a little bit of a like something that sparks a delight. And it could be a surprise. I
Like,
guess it wouldn't have to be, but like, yeah, exactly. Like
right.
you know, I can't think of her without making that big like face
Have
in a
you
happy
seen,
way.
yeah, have you seen that the Pixar movie Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs?
No.
It is so cute. I
I
love that
bet.
movie. So there's a character in it that is hysterical. So he's a grown man, but when he was a baby, he was the face of a suntan lotion. So he
Oh,
was the baby on the suntan lotion wearing a diaper. That's
yeah,
all he
yeah,
wears.
yeah.
And the photo of it is that he's the baby in the diaper on the beach, and there's a puppy dog who's pulling at his diaper, and he makes this face. Oh,
That's real. That's the Coppertone ad.
oh, is that
Yeah, that
real?
was a
Okay.
real thing. I think it was
So
Coppertone.
in
Yeah.
the movie, the character, and it's an animated movie, but in the movie, this character is so funny. He's this like grown ass man with like muscles and stuff. And because that's his only claim to fame, he like
Oh.
tells people he's he's kind of like, do you know who I am? I'm like, oh. I love that bit so much.
Yeah.
And then he does that like whole motion to them, like his diaper is being pulled. It's a little bit like that too, where yeah,
I did think of Lucille Ball at one point watching her
right,
films because she was crying in that way that is very ah
right,
kind of sound that Lucille Ball did so well.
yeah.
I forget it wasn't QSQ2, it was one of the other ones, but it was very,
Mm.
very
I have a
comedian.
question for you.
Mm,
So I feel like a lot of times people say this, and I feel like I do agree with them to some extent, not wholly. I feel like people say that comedic actors are never given their due,
sure.
and people always question their acting capacity or capability because they're like, well,
Mm-hmm.
that person pretty much just did comedy. And a lot of comedic actors actually push back on that by saying that
Mm-hmm.
actually comedy is a lot harder to do. It's much harder to have that comic timing and the facial expressions, and physical comedy is really hard as well, as opposed to doing the more sort of like quote unquote dramatic roles.
Mm-hmm.
And also, all of the award ceremonies all over the world always ignore the comedic actors, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's the heavy hitting, gritty
Yeah.
dramas that get all the awards. Do you A, agree with that statement wholly or in part? And B, if you do agree with this statement, then do you think that it's unfair of us or other people who say that Juhi is doesn't necessarily have the acting chops?
I've certainly heard this.
Hmm.
I have accepted it as true without thinking about it a whole lot because it does seem to me that off the top of my head, I don't feel like the people who are most funny are maybe the most awarded. However, well, especially with the internet and kind of meme culture, people who are funny are widely loved, even if they're not
Mm,
recognized as much, like if you can make those two different things. So I'm not sure. I think they're underappreciated, but they may be
okay.
under-recognized in a
Mm,
formal or awardsy sort of way. I don't know. I people say that so much that I almost have to believe it, you know?
yeah.
Um, I um it's interesting you say this because as I was watching QSQT, I was thinking, okay, what if I find her charming and I'm convinced of their love, then is that not a good acting? It does seem like that
Right.
has to be good acting. But then there were so many moments where I felt like she was awkward,
Mm,
not on purpose.
raw.
Yeah, and kind of like a little stilted or something. So I'm like, well,
Mm,
maybe she's not a good. And I couldn't decide what I even thought acting was while watching that movie. And same for Amir, actually.
right.
It's his first film, like it's fine. But so this is yeah, what is it that we mean when we say acting? Like, I don't know. It's probably convincing me of
Yeah.
something, which they did do. So then I have to say that they're good actors, but
Right.
but yeah, it's very complicated. But I do um I mean, to be funny is not necessarily easier than to be dramatic in one's day-to-day life, right? And
Right.
if if you're handed the script and getting direction, then aren't they more or less equally challenging? I don't know. Like doing
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't
I
know, but
struggle with that too, I feel
yeah.
like. Because I especially think about this in relation to Madhubala, because a lot of people feel
Mm,
like of the older generation of stars, Madhubala is the one who's kind of like the most underrated because she
mm,
primarily was a comedic actor. And then if
hmm.
you look at her contemporaries, if you look at the Nargisses and the Wahida Rahmans, and
Yeah,
and then also people love to have the tragedy kings and queens crowned as like Meena Kumari or Dilip Kumar as the best. And it's kind of like, why? Because they're crying on screen. But then if Madhubala makes me laugh, does that make her less than? Like, I don't know if I agree with that.
yeah,
But at the same time, I also know that Juhi is no Smita Patel. I know she's no Shabana. But at the same time, Smita or Shabana couldn't do what she does
right.
either.
It's just
So
different.
it's just, yeah, like I don't necessarily have a fully formed thought here.
No,
I'm
me
just kind of
neither.
like
Yeah,
spitballing and just discussing it with you because
yeah.
it's like sometimes I find myself feeling one way and sometimes I find myself feeling
Hmm.
the other way. So
I
this is less
wonder,
about Juhi and
oh
more
yeah,
just
I wonder if part of it is that it is maybe, is it true that largely the films we feel are hard-hitting, have something to
mm,
say, making a point,
right.
those are the dramas, so therefore we gravitate to award the people who have
Mm,
put them on screen. But that, of course, comedies can very much be about something,
yeah,
and lots of dramas are not about anything that matters, and
right.
comedies can be about something that matters. So,
Yeah.
that,
It could
yeah,
also be that maybe when you're doing a more dramatic movie, apart, there's all these negative emotions you can portray, right? Like you can be angry one minute, you can be frustrated another, you can be disappointed another, you could break down and cry another. But if you're doing more of a comedy movie, then maybe you're basically just giggling the whole time or
right.
pulling pranks or being funny. So then maybe there's like a lesser range. I don't know. I mean, for example, I think Kishore Kumar was an extremely gifted actor.
Mm-hmm.
I think Madhubala was very gifted. I think
Mm-hmm.
Mehmood, like I watched
Oh
Mehmood in
yeah,
Padosan and I'm just like
he's very
dying. I think
good.
Sunil Dutt was great at comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when people talk about great actors, they don't mention these people. And I'm
No,
like, but they're phenomenal. And then part
yeah.
of me does wonder if we're not giving them their flowers. I don't know. This is just me being philosophical on a random
It's I
morning.
I hope that people who have, I don't know, do we have any listeners who have studied acting? Please tell us. Um, yeah, and then in the world of mainstream Hindi, which is so often masala in some way or another,
Mm,
like this scrambles together a little bit in ways that it might not in some other settings. And um, yeah, why isn't she more? I don't know. And then also there's the thing about how women aren't supposed to be funny. So then
Right.
it's got an extra hurdle there to
Yeah.
um
Because for the longest times, like the heroine was never supposed to be funny, right? Like there were all these designations, right? Like there was the comedic actress,
yep.
like Shashikala, for example, was comedic,
Yeah.
and then there was Tuntun, and it was that.
Yeah.
And Farida Jalal, I think, was also part of slotted as like the funny sister or the funny best friend.
Mhm.
And then the heroine wasn't funny, and then the heroine wasn't sexy either, which is why you had the vamp. So you had Helen and Bindu and Arna Irani doing the cabaret numbers and stuff. And the heroine was much more one note. But
Yeah.
I think Madhubala was the first one where she was the heroine, but she was also glamorous and she was also funny at the same time. Um, and with all the other actresses, you can see how they're much more siloed. But then you have Juhi, and she's kind of the heroine, but she's also funny at the same time, and she's glamorous, kind of.
And it's interesting that she gets to be she is considered so comedically talented when her debut, no, not her debut, the thing that rocketed her, QSQT, isn't that funny?
Is that funny? No.
Famously a
Well,
tragedy.
her real debut isn't funny either,
No,
Sultanate.
no, it's not.
It's literally swords in the desert and grumpy camels galore, which we love, which we have no complaint with.
No.
Okay, I think that concludes this episode.
The next superstar is
Urmila.
so excited.
Yay! So
So excited. I have
exciting.
so much to learn. I'm so intrigued. I have a couple of things
Yes.
bookmarked to watch. Don't ask me what they are because I don't have my notes in front of me, but
Don't worry.
are
It'll
you
be
gonna
surprise.
are you gonna rewatch A Casino D?
I feel like I have to
I
because it's
think you
been a
have
while
to.
since I rewatched it. And I really want to rewatch Con because I love that movie so much. And it's horror.
I will
I
not
love
be,
horror.
I can't do it. So
No,
many people have told me, oh, you have to
you
watch it
should
if you
not.
like Armilla, but I know I can't. I
No.
know there's a pet in it. I know that's not gonna go well. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah, I would not recommend that you watch
I leave that
Gone,
to
but
you.
I might rewatch Gone. And I might rewatch Ek Hasina Thi just because the movie makes me so frustrated, but then the end is so satisfying. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so that concludes our final episode of 2024. Happy New Year, you guys, and be safe. And if you're partying, and have a good time. And we will see you in the next year. And then tell us what you think about Juhi. Also, tell us what you think about our rambling about comedic actors and
Yeah,
whatever
please.
your thoughts are on those. And then tell us what your favorite Juhi Chawla movies are. And then we will see you in the new year.